Всем добрый день, это блог «Трансформация», меня зовут Михаил Штекель, и сегодня у нас в гостях независимый технический консультант Эдриан Пайк из компании Эдриан Пайк Consultancy. Я перейду на английский, и впоследствии вы сможете смотреть это интервью в переводе. Hello, Adrian.
Good morning.
The zero question will be, what's your occupation here? What do you do, and what are you specializing at?
Okay, so I'm Adrian Пайк. My consultancy specializes in offering advice and support to the highways infrastructure sector. I've been involved in highways infrastructure for about 34 years now, so I've got a lot of experience both here in Ukraine and worldwide. Originally from the UK, but I then worked in the Middle East for about 12 years. And for the past sort of 3 or 4 months I've been in Ukraine. So yeah, I offer independent advice to contractors, to clients, to other consultants about the subjects of bridge deck waterproofing and expansion joints, which are very important for the highways infrastructure sector.
During these few months, what were the most interesting problems you had to solve here?
Yeah, well, last year I spent quite a lot of time in Ukraine as well, during the sort of pandemic stops and starts. And I was fortunately involved in some of the work at Podolsky Bridge in Kiev, which is a very interesting structure which has taken about 27 years to get to this point. And the company I was working for at the time were doing the waterproofing, the bridge deck waterproofing. So it was a very interesting job that, as I say, it's taken a long time, but now it's progressing. And it was very interesting to see how it was progressing, and I was offering them support and advice on that particular project. In addition, there was a bridge in Mykolaiv called Ingulsky Bridge, which is a bascule bridge going over the river Ingul, and again provided them technical support to service that particular project. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going off in Ukraine now. Certainly the infrastructure is seen as key to development of the particular country. You know, without roads, without infrastructure, you know, the market can't move forward. So we are certainly from the outside looking in, I'm seeing quite a lot of investment here, and hopefully there'll be more structures built and also projects maintained as well.
Do you have any information about why it takes so long to build this Podolsky Bridge? What's up with it?
I think it's because of the obviously historical time. It started in 1993, I think, just after the breakaway from the Soviet times, and then obviously different political factions, monetary funding, all of these have been factors, and priorities. You know, priorities change over time. You know, at one stage, yes, they wanted it building straight away. I mean, a bridge of that scale should probably take 5 or 6 years to build, normally, but it's taken 27.
As far as I understand, the more time you spend doing nothing, the more the price rises, because it's going to destruct in some natural way the bridge itself.
You're so right. I mean, what's happened over time, you've got steel sections, you've got concrete sections that have been exposed to the elements, a lot of them, and now you've got maintenance works. So you've got a strange scenario where you've got maintenance works on a new structure, but it's not a new structure. Some of it's, say, 20 odd years old. So it's a challenge now to actually get the work completed as soon as possible, so they don't waste any more money putting right previous work.
Do you have any forecasts, perspectives on this particular bridge? How much time will it take? A year or two?
Look, most people are saying, look, it should be finished by the end of 2021. My view, for what it's worth, there's still a lot of work going off on the island. They're still doing sort of foundation works, which take time. So my view is it'll probably take a bit longer than that, but you can certainly see progress. You know, each time I've been to the site, I've seen progress. I've seen other contractors involved, and there's certainly more of a team effort there now to get the works finished as soon as possible.
And what was your role in Gulsk Bridge? What were the problems you met there?
Well, in Gulski Bridge was a 35-year-old structure. It was a steel bascule bridge or lift bridge, and it was suffering with degradation, with corrosion. There was bare steel. There was no asphalt on some of it, so it was in really a bad way. So the client asked our local contractor to look at repair solutions, and they came up with a solution to actually remove the asphalt, clean off the existing steel, do some repairs, and then apply a combined waterproofing and wearing surface. So rather than putting asphalt back on, which had failed previously, they used a polymer system. So it's got some flexibility, very good adhesion, and also very good wear characteristics. So, and it's lightweight. It's lighter than the asphalt, but it's more durable. And because it's all one type of system, one type of chemical, if you like, it's homogeneous. There's no weak laps. There's no weak joints. And asphalt will crack over time. Because this has got some flexibility, the polymer won't crack. So it's going to give a lot more durability for that particular structure. So the client was very happy down there, and hopefully that'll lead to more and more opportunities.
Local authorities paid for the bridge repair, as far as I understand.
Yes, but I think there was some federal funding down there, because they say it was an isolated structure. But you see that dotted around Ukraine, where there's federal money spent on a particular location. The bridge at Zaporozhye at the moment, which is a federally funded project. Podolsky is obviously a local Kiev project, but it's under the spotlight up there.
But the Kiev itself has its specific
They've got their own funding,
yes.
haven't they? Yeah.
Yes. Can you somehow analyze the problems you've seen here in Ukraine? I mean, some common problems maybe with bridge or with bridges or with infrastructure. What do you see working here?
Yeah, I think it's always been a case of priorities here. You've got often a limited budget. For me, you're better off focusing on trying to do something right than trying to spread your funds very thinly and do sort of patchwork repairs. But what I've seen is, probably some sort of using inappropriate materials. I've seen that before, where they've perhaps used materials from maybe from Europe. It could be from anywhere, but they've not been applied properly. They've not been managed properly. Perhaps the local contractors didn't know had the skills to apply these materials. So I've seen that. It's often not the materials problem. It's often related to the lack of support and training given to the local contractors. So to me, it needs a bit of joined up thinking that if you're going to use technologies, you need to use those technologies with the right partners and make sure that they understand what they need to do. There's no point doing a Rolls-Royce job on a bridge if you don't apply the material properly.
During last year, our country, our taxpayers, spent a lot of money on highways. It's Велике будівництво project of presidential administration. Do you see any way to, I don't know, in our country, when we speak about big construction or highway construction or bridge construction, it's almost always about corruption and some companies which are connected to politicians who has special connections with authorities and so on. I assume you understand what I'm talking about. But do you see any way of developing and improving the process itself? I mean, is it only about the money we spend because we spend more and more money on that, or do we have we should switch to some other technologies of building? Is it enough to spend more and more money on this construction?
I think in most countries they have a budget for maintenance and obviously for new construction. And it's important that there's a balance between the two, because there's no point going ahead building new roads and new bridges when the existing infrastructure is falling apart. You know, so it needs a balance. I mean, you've got there's several thousand kilometers of highways in Ukraine, and a vast majority of it is in a poor condition, and it needs a planned schedule of preventative maintenance, and it needs a look at. It needs to be joined up. All of the authorities need to get together with the federal government, decide what's priority, what needs to be done now, what needs to be done in the next 5 years to make sure things are done properly. It's a bit, you know, probably a bit knee-jerk. You know, if there's a hole in the road, they'll fix it. But what happened? How did that hole appear? You know, otherwise you will just keep chasing the problem.
By the way, what do you think about concrete highways? Because as far as I know, we are building a concrete highway near Odessa for big trucks to go into Odessa port, because concrete is like stronger. It takes more time for trucks to kill it. So what do you think about it?
No, I mean, it's been very successful, certainly in America, where it's been used an awful lot. And in the UK, some of the original parts of the main motorway, which is the M1, from London to Leeds, were done in concrete. And there's been lots of studies done on concrete roads, but there's now technologies to reprofile. So what happens with concrete, it goes smooth. Over time, it loses its resistance to skidding.
So it's harder to put a brake on it, I mean.
Correct, but so there's now technologies to reprofile it, so you're not having to remove big, thick sections of concrete. You can reprofile that concrete to give it more life. So there's certainly advancements in that, but obviously there's always been a favoritism towards asphalt, because it can be renewed every 15 years and replaced.
Yeah, that was my next question actually. Why we don't have more concrete roads in Ukraine? Because I've seen them in the United States, I've seen them in Israel, for example. I've never been to UK, but I know that this material is widely used. Why we don't have it?
It's as I say, it's the maintenance side that once it becomes non-viable, what do you do with it? You know, before this reprofiling technology, the only options were to remove sections and replace the concrete, or put asphalt on top of the concrete. And if you're doing that, you're raising the profile. There's compatibility issues between the concrete and the asphalt. One's very hard, one's not so hard. You get cracking in the overlay. But I think now you probably find that they're more and more popular. But there is just a tradition of using asphalts, because, as I say, they are flexible, and people know how to deal with them.
Yeah, that's the point, maybe.
Look, after 15 years, if there's some rutting, we'll replace it. And you can do little patches, and that's what people are used to. It's in the mentality.
Mm-hmm. But easier to maintain.
Yeah, I think that's
quicker to repair.
That's probably what it is. And you go around the world, you see most countries using asphalt. But as I say, I think things may change now with the durability factor.
And the new profile technology you mentioned, when did it appear? Approximately.
It was used in America maybe 15, 20 years ago. But it's taken time. And I know in the UK now that they've just done sections of this now, and they're finding that they're getting some good results. Because it's not just about the durability, it's making sure that is a safe surface. You know, when it rains, getting rid of the water, making sure the profile is sufficient. Otherwise, you're going to get lots of accidents.
Soviet infrastructure. We have lots of Soviet infrastructural objects. It's bridges, road crossings, surely highways. Anything connected to infrastructure in Ukraine is somehow connected with our Soviet history. What can we do about it? I mean, do we need to modernize it? Do we need to somehow still use it? Or do we need just to forget about the infrastructural objects of Soviet Union and build a brand new?
I don't think you can forget about the past. I mean, the past is part of where you are today. And obviously to build brand new infrastructure, it's just impractical. So you've got to do a balance of new infrastructure and maintaining the existing. And, you know, each of the bridges, structures that have been built over the last 50, 60 years, you need to inspect them. They need to be checked over, to do design calculations, making sure that they're still fit for use, and then decide on what's best to make sure that that particular structure lasts another 50 years, you know, whether it's strengthening, whether it's repair, or if it's not in a fit condition, to replace it.
And you've seen Ingulsk Bridge. Was it maintained? Because I'm asking because I'm afraid that any other bridge in Ukraine is kept like that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. The one in Ingulsky was in a very poor condition. You know, the existing traffic was running on bare steel, which is not good. That steel is not designed to be trafficked. There's no skid properties. It's just bare steel. So it wasn't really in a particularly safe condition. But fortunately, you know, the local authorities saw that, maybe belatedly, but they decided to do repairs. But I think it was also due to the fact that the funding was available. But again, you know, I'm not speaking on behalf of the authorities, but, you know, it's priorities. You know, is a bridge more important than a hospital, a school? You know, this is a balance.
Yeah, it's
always
a question of budget, budget finance.
It is, but when it becomes a problem in terms of the traffic, you know, commuters getting to work, you know, and safety, then, you know, the highways, the bridges become critical. So it needs a look at each particular bridge, inspect them, and do a maintenance program. You know, but without the maintenance, you're going to get the problems year and year and year and year. You know, you can spend X $1,000s today, but if you don't maintain that structure again, you'll be in the same position.
How much time will it take when do we need to maintain the Ingulsk Bridge again? 10 years, 15 years?
I mean, the system that was put down is designed for about 12 years. But that doesn't mean that you just ignore it for 12 years. You know, there may be damage, there may be a fire on the bridge, there may be some spillage or a truck going over. You know, the client, the bridge authority, need to make sure that if repairs are required, they're done.
Are there any other Ukrainian bridges you'd like to work with?
Yeah, I mean, there are many, obviously in Kiev. There are a lot of big structures over there that were built, you know, 30, 40 years ago that look to be in a position where they need some repairs now. Well, there's Southern Bridge, there's Patton Bridge up there, you know, all of which will need some remediation at some point. The longer it goes on, the more problems that's going to be caused, the more corrosion. You know, corrosion is the big problem with concrete and steel. You know, if the corrosion gets too developed, then there could be structural problems that occurred further down the line. So it's important that the bridge owners do proper inspection and they prioritize the maintenance. But again, it's a balance with funding.
Did you hear about any other incidents with bridges in Ukraine? Soviet built bridges, old ones?
No, I mean, obviously I've traveled around Ukraine and I've been on a lot of obviously the should we say, difficult journeys to different provinces. And you see that obviously the main road from Kiev to Odessa is in great shape now. You know, it's over I mean, I've been coming here for 10 years and that journey has improved no end, you know, because they've invested. There are contractors working on there at the moment, doing improvements, doing widening, you know, which is great, you know. But obviously that is one of the main roads. But there are obviously countless other thousands of kilometers of road that are in need of repair and refurbishment.
You said that you are going on that road for 10 years, and so you're working here for a while. What progress do you see in Ukrainian contractors, in Ukrainian companies? I assume they they became better?
Yeah, and I think that's obviously the more projects that you do, and I'm not saying that Ukraine's not isolated. You know, you're part of a wider region. You know, there are some other European contractors that work here. There are a lot of good local contractors working here. But you've got to know your limitations. You know, if contractors might understand asphalt, they might understand concrete, they might understand, you know, bridge construction, but they may not be skilled in all of the different aspects, and that's where you need outside help. You know, no country can survive, you know, without getting some support. And once that's recognised, that's what you need to do. Get help in, so then the nationals here will then understand what they need to do for future projects.
One of ideas of our government, current government, is weighing big trucks on the road to understand where they kill the highway, for them to pay fines, surely, if they're overweighing.
Yes.
But do you know any international experience on that? I understand that this is crucial. I mean, if you repair a highway and a big truck is going from one side to another and again, the highway will ruin. What do you think about this initiative to weigh in the trucks? Is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, I used to live in the Middle East, where there's a lot of actually dedicated truck roads. There are roads for trucks, and they're different specification, but they do weigh trucks, because if you overload a truck, it's going to save the trucking company money, because he can ship 60 tons rather than 50 tons. But obviously the road is not designed for that weight. Most of Europe has a 42-ton weight limit on its structures. So it's not just about the overloading for the road, but when it comes to a bridge, it's very important. You know, the road might rut, but a bridge could collapse. You know, so it's very important that you do take steps and that there are regular checkpoints. Certainly from, you know, industrial areas where you bring in rock and steel and other commodities around the region. I mean, again, in some countries they're trying to avoid trucking altogether, and they're building railway networks. You know, but you're not there yet. You know, you're trying to develop your road systems here.
It's about our limitations and cooperation with Ukrainian railway company. It's about politics partly, not about logistics.
But you're quite right that if checks aren't done on trucks and trucking companies, then that will expedite the problem.
I'm just thinking about international experience on that. Weighing in motion, it's called. So the idea itself is not to weigh in a truck on a special stop like they do now, because it doesn't work because of corruption. The idea is weighing it while it's moving on some special districts. Have you heard about such technologies? Does it work?
Yeah, I know this technology is for speed. You know, I assume there'll be sensors that you can put in the road that will check the weights as well. But it's not something I've really been involved in.
What was the most interesting and innovative solution you have to embed here in Ukraine, on Ukrainian projects?
Well, I think the work that we've done at Ingulski is a step forward for Ukraine, in that it's using non-standard technology. It's using a flexible polymer-based system. It's removing the issue of the asphalt. Asphalt has got maintenance, it's got a limited lifespan, it's subject to cracking, it's quite heavy. So removing that element, I mean, obviously a lift bridge and a swing bridge are different to a normal bridge. These things move, they vibrate, they're isolated. You know, there's a lot more flexing. So giving the client the option of a combined waterproofing and wearing course system was a leap forward, and thankfully the client understood and acknowledged the solution. They accepted it, and it's being used now. So I think that's good, and I think it will help if that's used. You can use it for footways, again, without asphalt, and other structures that are subject to weight restrictions, where asphalt would otherwise fail quickly. So yeah, I think that's a good solution, and I think what they're doing up at Podolsky at the moment, again with a polymer system up there for both the asphalt, quite an innovative solution for the asphalt, and the waterproofing system, which is using quite high technology systems. And again, the government there have accepted that, and they're using it because they're wanting a long life. It's for something that's taken 27 years and there's been lots of stops and starts. They're now saying, look, we want to get this job finished, but we want to make sure we're using the right materials, so we're not back in here again in 2 years' time.
We have a very interesting bridge here in this region to the south of Odessa. Maybe you've heard about it, over Dniester Liman. It's 2 towers and a road between 2 towers, actually, which is going up and down for vessels to go underneath the bridge. What do you think of such construction of piece of road going just vertically and up and then down? Can it somehow be modernized? Maybe some other technology or material to be used, because it's really old. It's very narrow. It has just one lane to one direction and another lane in opposite direction.
Well, obviously, I assume it's there because there must be marine vessels coming underneath it.
It was built when this Liman there were more vessels going in and out.
Right. So the only other option is you either build a bridge to go over it that's high enough, it's got a 6 or 7 meter or even more height, which is expensive, or you can repair the existing one. I mean, there are we call them transporter bridges. They're in the UK. We have these that are built 50, 60 years ago. It is quite old technology, but provided it's maintained, then you've got some life out of it. But moving on, if that's going to continue to be a widely used marine area, then a longer term solution may be beneficial. But that would be a much higher bridge, or maybe a bascule bridge. I don't know how long how wide it is. To me, again, it's all about what funding you've got. If they can afford to do repairs, fine, to keep the thing open. But if they've got a longer term objective of utilising that area for more industry, for more commerce, then a longer term solution is required.
Mm-hmm. Even building one more bridge, which is higher than the existing one.
Yeah, and then you could slowly not use that bridge, couldn't you? If you put the traffic through the new bridge, then you wouldn't need to use that one as much.
Yeah, it's a very old construction. I mean, if you didn't see it, I really recommend, because it just looks very Soviet. Very Soviet. It's very old. You can see Karajan on the details. And our last question, which we ask any of our guests, how do you think, what should Ukrainians do to be proud of their transport and their infrastructural sphere here in Ukraine?
I think you should be proud that the government is now investing. I've heard on the media that there's considerable sections of road that are going to be replaced and maintained. So, at some point, most people in Ukraine will see the benefits. The people that live in Kiev and Odessa are seeing the benefits now, because they can travel safely in a fairly quick time up to the capital. But there's something like 4,500 bridges in Ukraine that are in need of repair, and the government have highlighted that fact, and they're now going to start looking at investing in the country. Once you start investing, then obviously you're then connected with the rest of Europe. I've worked in Poland and in Serbia and that sort of area where you're seeing the benefits of that, where you see new roads, connected to other parts of Europe. So, business comes from that. If they suddenly arrive in Ukraine and the roads are up and down, then people aren't going to travel through. It's going to cost them more money, isn't it, if they're stuck in traffic or the damage in the trucks. But I think overall, I think Ukraine has got a positive future, positive outlook, provided that the funding is focused, you know, and it's not just scattergun, trying to keep everybody happy. And to me, they need to focus on a particular section or region and say, right, let's fix that, then we'll fix this and move it forward. There's only so much money to move around, but you know, it'll take time. You know, I think, you know, you're not going to expect to see immediate results, but if you invest, you use the right technologies that are proven, the right companies to do that work, and it's managed and supervised properly, then, you know, things can only improve.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.